Steam billowed across the platform as the train screeched to a halt. My son Derek checked his watch for the third time, impatience etched on his face. "Your cabin's the fourth car," he muttered, hefting my duffel onto the platform. "Don't forget your medication." I nodded, still believing this was a 2-week rest trip they'd arranged. Something about the house needing repairs. The fact they'd packed only one small bag should have been my first clue. Alina stood behind him, scrolling through her phone. When she looked up, her smile didn't reach her eyes. "The mountain air will do you good, Eldon." She never called me Dad, not once in 8 years. The conductor called for boarding. Derek checked his phone again. "Traffic's gonna be hell if we don't leave now." I reached for a hug. He patted my shoulder instead, already turning away. "Wait." I fumbled with my wallet. "Did you put my return ticket in here?" Something passed between them, a look I'd seen before but couldn't name. "It's all arranged," Alina said, her laugh sharp as broken glass. "Everything's taken care of." They were walking away before I could respond. The BMW's taillights disappeared around the corner while I stood clutching $50 and a bottle of pills. An hour later, the cabin attendant frowned at my ticket. "Sir, this is one way to Millridge. There's no return." My hands trembled as I dialed Derek's number. Straight to voicemail. Then Alina's. Same thing. "I called our house my house for 42 years. The number you have reached is no longer in service." Cold sweat beaded my forehead as pieces locked into place. The paperwork, the missing furniture, the changed locks on the shed. Across from me, a woman read her newspaper. The headline blared, "Housing scams target veterans." My Marine training kicked in. Assess the situation, identify the threat, formulate response. But this wasn't combat. This was my blood, my son. That's when I realized they weren't sending me away. They were erasing me. And I had let them. 2 months earlier, I'd been fixing the porch swing when Derek pulled into the driveway in his new Beamer. He never visited on Thursdays. "Hey, Dad." He bounded up the steps, manila folder tucked under his arm. "Got a minute?" Inside, he spread papers across the kitchen table. Words like estate planning and asset protection flowed smooth as whiskey. "It's basic stuff," he explained, flipping pages faster than I could read them. "Protects the house from taxes when when I die," he meant. "Your mother would want us to handle this." He tapped Lena's photo on the wall. She was always the practical one, 48 years together, and he thought he knew her better than me. "Just sign here," he pointed, "and here, and initial these." The pen felt heavy. Something in my gut whispered caution. "Maybe I should have Vicky look at these," I said. Vicky Thompson had been our family lawyer since before Derek was born. His face darkened. "She retired last year, Dad. Remember? Besides, this is straightforward. Trust me. Trust me." The words children learn before please. I signed. Alina brought coffee, hovering nearby. "The garden looks lovely, Eldon. You've been busy." The next morning, my key card didn't work at the side door. Had to walk around front. "System glitch," Derek said when he visited again. "They're sending a new fob." A week later, mail arrived, addressed to current resident. My name and address crossed out. I called the bank. My mortgage was listed as satisfied, in full. When I confronted Derek, his smile never wavered. "That's what the papers were for, Dad. No more mortgage. House is secure." But when I asked for copies, he claimed they were being processed. That night, I tried accessing my home security system. Password invalid. I'd raised a boy who said prayers before bed and thanked veterans on the street. Now I watched a stranger wearing my son's face take everything I'd built. I had no idea the document I'd signed was going to decide who I became next, the victim or the ghost. The changes came like silent artillery, precise, devastating, unstoppable. Monday, workers arrived to paint the living room. My Marine Corps photo wall disappeared under seafoam green. "Fresh start," Alina chirped, arranging weird crystal pyramids where Lena's quilts had been. Tuesday, Derek installed new smart locks, my spare keys now useless pieces of metal. Wednesday, my bedroom furniture vanished while I was at physical therapy. "We moved you to the guest room," Derek explained. "Better for your knees, no stairs." The guest room, 9 by 12 feet of hollow core walls where visitors used to stay. My king bed replaced by a twin, 40 years of marriage compressed to a nightstand and lamp. By Friday, Lena's garden was being torn up for a water feature. I found Max, my service dog since Afghanistan, flared back up in my dreams, whimpering outside. A note on his collar. Please keep dog outside. Alina allergic. Max had lived inside for 7 years. Alina had never mentioned allergies once. Dinner became warfare. They'd eat at 6 while telling me 7. Food always cold, portions small. Derek called me Eldon now, not Dad. Eldon, could you not leave your shoes in the hall? Eldon, we need that chair for the dinner party. Each word landed like shrapnel, not enough to kill, just enough to bleed you empty. I became furniture they had to dust around. When friends visited, they introduced me as staying with us for a while, as if my name on the deed meant nothing. My medals vanished next. Combat Action Ribbon, Purple Heart, Silver Star. Being cleaned, Derek claimed. I never saw them again. That night I heard them through the vent. How long before we list? Alina's voice. Soon. Once the renovations are done. And him? We'll figure something out. I lay in bed. The same bed where I'd once thrashed through nightmares of jungle and fire, while my son plotted just 1 floor below. They thought silence meant surrender. They'd never met silence trained by the Corps. I began my counterattack at dawn. First reconnaissance. I shuffled around, shoulders stooped, asking obvious questions. Where's my blue sweater? What day is the trash pickup? They relaxed, thinking age had finally conquered me. Dad's getting worse, Derek whispered to Alina. Dementia. Maybe. Perfect cover. While they slept, I photographed everything. Used my old flip phone to snap pictures of mail, renovation invoices, bank statements left in the printer tray. Each night I added to my intelligence file, receipt for new locks. $1,249. Credit card statements showing $30,000 in new furniture. Brochure. From Silver Sunset. Assisted living facility. House listing draft I found in Derek's printer. $850,000 starting bid. I recorded conversations on my ancient tape recorder, the kind they thought too obsolete to notice. Once we flip this place, we can finally get the lake house, Alina said over breakfast, forgetting I was sitting right there. During their dinner parties, I'd play the doddering old man, spilling just enough drink to be sent away, then listen through heating vents as they discussed their plans with friends. The market's hot, someone said. You could clear $500,000, enough to retire early. Derek laughed. I bought time by appearing increasingly frail. Slower steps, longer naps, vacant stares. Meanwhile, I was studying the documents I'd signed. Derek had rushed me through them, but he'd missed something crucial. At the Veterans Center, I met with a benefits counselor, showed her my discharge papers, then the property records. Her eyes widened. This is a protected Veterans Trust property. It can't be sold without formal dissolution by the primary beneficiary. Which is 1. You, sir, until your death. The clause was buried on page 16. Property bound to Veterans Family Trust until death of grantor. I am the grantor. The house remains. Mine until I die. They took my house. I kept the detonator. The July heat shimmered above the new deck as Derek flipped burgers, playing perfect host. 3 weeks of planning had led to this moment, their neighborhood barbecue. I sat in the corner, nursing lemonade, invisible except when needed for their performance. Dad, come meet the Harrises. Derek called, arm around my shoulder for the first time in months. Dad's staying with us while we renovate. Right, Dad? I nodded, the compliant old man. So generous of you both. His grip tightened, warning or gratitude. I couldn't tell. 30 guests milled around my transformed backyard. The oak where I'd hung Lena's swing now supported string lights and speakers. My workshop had become an outdoor bar. Alina floated between clusters, champagne flute in hand, my wife's pearl necklace at her throat. We're thinking of Tuscany in September, she told her circle. Once everything here is settled. Derek wore my Rolex, the one I'd received for 30 years at Palmer Manufacturing. Just borrowing it, he'd said months ago. Now it lived on his wrist. I placed my phone on the table, angled perfectly, recording as I shuffled to get more ice. At the cooler, I pretended to struggle with the lid. I'll help you, Mr. Graves, offered Zach, the teenage neighbor. Thank you, son, I said loudly. Hard to keep up these days. Across the lawn, I saw Alina roll her eyes. When I returned, They were discussing the house. The realtor thinks we'll get above asking, Derek boasted. Property values here are exploding. When's it hitting the market? Asked someone. Alina leaned in, voice lowered but clear on my recording. Next month. We've almost got everything arranged. Finally rid of the old man and this outdated house. Her friend gasped, then giggled. You're terrible. I'm practical, Alina corrected. We've carried this burden long enough. Burden. 27 years of Christmas mornings, college tuition, I'd paid by, working double shifts, the down payment for their first condo. I maintained my vacant smile as Derek wore my watch and Alina wore my wife's pearls, planning trips with money from my home, while I collected every word. That night, I replayed the recording, hearing their confession, motive, timeline, intent. I had their confession, but no plan yet. The neon sign of Rosie's Diner flickered against the morning rain. Inside, the vinyl booth squeaked as I slid in across from Rhea Nolan, silver-haired, ramrod straight, retired circuit judge and fellow Marine. You look like hell, Graves, she said, passing me coffee. Feel worse? I spread my evidence across the table. Photos, recordings, property documents. Rhea examined each, her expression darkening. Your son's committing fraud, she finally said. Textbook elder exploitation. You could press charges. The thought of Derek in handcuffs twisted something inside me. I don't want him in jail. I want my house back. She nodded, understanding the difference. Then we trap them instead, let them hang themselves, then cut the rope. For the next hour, we built our strategy. Rhea made calls to former colleagues, a real estate commissioner, a veterans advocate, a detective specializing in fraud. They've scheduled an open house, I said, showing her the online listing I'd found. Thursday at 2. Perfect. Her eyes gleamed with battlefield recognition. That's when we move. She outlined the plan, each step calculated for maximum impact. Your son's mistake was thinking age made you vulnerable. He forgot what you are. And what's that? A Marine who survived Quezon, she said, squeezing my hand. You don't survive that by being easy prey. We left the diner as allies. My folders tucked under her arm for safekeeping. For the first time since the train station, I felt something other than betrayal. Something with teeth. Thursday, Rhea confirmed. Wear your service pins. They took those, I admitted. Her jaw tightened. I have spares. In the parking lot, rain soaking through my jacket, I watched her drive away. 3 days until the open house. 3 days of playing docile while sharpening the knife. That evening, Derek informed me I'd need to be out on Thursday afternoon. Realtor stuff, he explained vaguely. Maybe visit the library? I nodded meekly. Whatever helps. He seemed relieved by my compliance, patting my shoulder awkwardly. You're a good son, I said, the lie bitter on my tongue. His face flickered with something guilt, doubt, then hardened again. Get some rest, Dad. As he walked away, I touched the pocket where I'd hidden Rhea's card. Thursday, 2 p.m. That's when they'd meet the man they thought they'd buried. Thursday arrived with brutal clarity. While Derek and Alina prepared for their triumphant sale, I dressed carefully, pressed khakis, my old blue blazer, and the service pins Rhea had delivered. Going somewhere? Alina asked, arranging flowers in what had been Lena's vase. Just out, I mumbled, for that house thing. She barely glanced up. Be back after 5. We'll have people through. Outside, Rhea waited in her Buick, engine running. Ready, Marine? We parked down the street, watching potential buyers arrive. Couples in expensive clothes, real estate investors with portfolios, all circling what they thought was already carrion. At 2:30, when the house was fullest, we made our move. The realtor Vanessa something froze mid-sentence when we entered. Derek stood near the fireplace, pointing out, original hardwood, that I'd installed myself 20 years ago. He saw me, then saw Rhea. His glass nearly slipped from his hand. Dad, what are you? Attention, please, Rhea announced, her judge's voice filling the room. I'm Rhea Nolan, attorney for Eldon Graves, the legal owner of this property. The crowd turned, conversation dying. This home is not for sale, she continued. It remains under protected veterans trust provisions, and any sale would constitute fraud against both Mr. Graves and the Veterans Administration. Vanessa paled. I was told, you were misled, Rhea interrupted, handing her a document. as were these good people. Alina pushed through the crowd. This is ridiculous. We have paperwork, falsified paperwork, Ria corrected, producing copies. The transfer clause requires living consent, which Mr. Graves never provided for sale purposes. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Someone filmed with a phone. Derek approached, voice lowered to a hiss. Dad, what the hell are you doing? Remembering who I am, I answered, loud enough for others to hear. The realtor reviewed the documents, her professional mask slipping. I can't list this property, not with these legal issues. As people began leaving, Derek's shoulders sagged, the performance collapsing. His voice cracked. Dad, what did you do? I looked at my son, truly looked at him and said, something you should have learned before greed taught you worse. The fallout was swift and merciless. Vanessa, the realtor, canceled the listing on the spot, apologizing profusely to the disappointed buyers while avoiding Alina's glare. My firm can't touch this property, she declared, gathering her materials. Not with disputed ownership. An older man who'd been examining the kitchen stepped forward. I'm on the neighborhood association board. Is this something we should know about? Ria smiled thinly. Mr. Graves is simply reclaiming his home from exploitation. A sadly common story with elderly veterans. The word exploitation hung in the air like smoke. We were helping him, Alina insisted, mascara smudging as she blinked rapidly. He can't manage alone. Yet he managed to document everything. Ria countered, revealing my photos and recordings, including conversations about getting rid of the old man. Neighbors I'd known for decades, exchanged glances. The Millers, who'd brought me food when Lena died. The Pattersons, whose son I'd taught to fish. Derek tried damage control, voice unsteady. This is a family misunderstanding. It's elder fraud, interrupted a man near the door. He flashed a badge. Detective Ortiz, financial crimes. Judge Nolan called me. I hadn't expected this part. Ria must have made an extra call. The room emptied quickly, potential buyers escaping the unfolding disaster. Through the window, I saw phones raised, recording. By evening, the entire neighborhood would know. Ortiz took statements, his notepad filling with details. When he asked if I wanted to press charges, Derek and Alina froze, faces drained of color. I studied my son, the boy I'd taught to ride bikes and throw baseballs, now calculating his escape from consequences. Not at this time, I said finally, but I want full restoration of my property and accounts, immediately. Relief flooded Derek's face, followed quickly by calculation. We can work this out privately. No, I cut him off. We'll work it out legally, with witnesses and documentation. Ortiz nodded approvingly. Smart. I'll check in next week. As the detective left, Derek crumpled into a kitchen chair. The masquerade finished. For a moment, he looked like a boy again, the same boy I once taught to salute the flag he just betrayed. The lawyers took 3 weeks to unravel what Derek had done. Forged signatures, backdated documents, a second mortgage I'd never approved. Each revelation should have angered me. Instead, I felt a strange, hollow peace, like after surviving mortar fire, grateful to be breathing, but forever changed by the impact. I had my house back, my keys, my accounts, but trust doesn't return with a court order. On a Saturday morning, I began reclaiming spaces, repainted the living room, restored locks that recognized my fingerprint, pulled up Alina's concrete water feature and replanted Lena's perennials. The neighbors helped, appearing with casseroles and toolboxes. Always thought something was off, Mrs. Patterson confided, helping me rehang family photos. They barely let you speak at the block party. By October, physical traces of their occupation were gone, but memories lingered in corners. Derek's childhood height marks on the doorframe, Christmas ornaments he'd made in school, photographs I couldn't bring myself to take down. He called once. Voicemail. Not brave enough for conversation. Dad, we're sorry. It was Alina's idea at first, but that's not an excuse. I don't expect forgiveness. I didn't call back. Some wounds need more than words to heal. Instead, I built new routines. Coffee with fellow veterans on Tuesdays, volunteering at the elementary school on Thursdays, weekly dinners with Ria, who'd become a friend beyond her legal help. In November, I buried Max under the oak tree. 17 good years. I placed his ashes near the roots, where sunshine filtered through leaves. You outlasted them, old friend, I whispered. That evening, sitting on the porch swing Lena had loved, I realized something unexpected. I didn't hate Derek. Hatred requires energy I needed elsewhere. I pitied him. Somewhere along the way, he'd forgotten what home meant. But forgiveness isn't the same as return. Some doors, once closed, stay locked for good reason. The autumn air smelled clean like earned peace, like a battle survived. People think victory roars. Sometimes, it just exhales. Winter came early that year. Snow dusting the repaired porch steps. Inside, holiday lights reflected against windows that now opened to my touch alone. In the study restored from Alina's yoga room, I unlocked the fire safe, containing what remained of my life with Lena. Birth certificates, our marriage license, and the folder Derek had rushed me to sign months ago. I hadn't examined it since the reclaiming. Legal teams had handled everything. The pages felt fragile now, weighted with consequences none of us had foreseen. I poured a finger of bourbon and began, reading carefully, seeing what I'd missed in my trust and hurry. There, on page 16, highlighted by the lawyer but written in my own hand, a note I'd forgotten adding when Derek stepped away to take a call. No transfer shall be valid without the living consent of Eldon Graves. One sentence. 7 minutes alone with the document, while Derek argued with a client on the porch. My instinct protecting me before I knew I needed protection. I laughed until tears came, then wiped them away. Not victory tears or defeat tears, just recognition that even when I thought I was broken, something in me had remained vigilant. From the mantel, Lena seemed to smile from her silver frame. Always read the fine print, she used to say. As snowflakes gathered against glass, I recorded a video on my new phone insurance against forgetting, yes, but also testament. To whoever finds this someday, I began. I'm recording my story not from anger, but as instruction. I detailed everything, the betrayal, the fight, the reclamation. Then, looking directly into the camera for future eyes, maybe grandchildren I hadn't met yet, maybe strangers who'd inherit these walls after I was gone, I spoke the lesson that had cost so much to learn. If anyone ever tells you you're too old to fight, remember your blood. It doesn't quit. I ended the recording and closed the folder containing the deed I'd signed, the deed that saved me. Outside, the old Marine Corps flag I'd rehung caught winter wind, snapping like distant rifle fire. Some battles end. The warrior remains. The deed they stole was never mine to lose. It was my test to win.